AI consciousness. Now, this is a topic that we could easily have an entire semester working on, and it would still be hard to get to satisfactory conclusions, perhaps. What we'll try to do in this week is just to get to scratch the surface and to gather some intuitions and try to filter them and see what arguments can we find when we want to discuss AI consciousness. Now, what I'd like you to do is to pause this video and write down your intuitions on what is consciousness in general. So pause this video, get a piece of paper or a document on your computer and start writing down what you think is consciousness. Great. So now you should be familiar with this idea of here are some intuitions, but now we're trying to create arguments. We're trying to construct arguments, which means we're trying to provide reasons. We're trying to provide evidence. A view in philosophy and in science is valid because you've provided reasons. You have argued for it. Views are not favorable because a person is very cool and favors them, or because they just sound fun or interesting. We need to provide reasons for why we think what we think. So this is what we're gonna try to do now when we discuss consciousness in large language models that you should by now be very familiar with, if not have used some large language models. The first reading is a draft of a paper by David Chalmers, whose work you've already read last week, the Singularity Hypothesis paper. And Chalmers is in general a philosopher of mind famous for the hard problem of consciousness. What is the hard problem? We're trying to understand what is this thing that intuitively seems to make a lot of sense to us, this first person experience, which at the same time we really struggle to explain in non-first person terms. So David Chalmers introduced the hard problem of consciousness and distinguished this problem from the easy problems of consciousness, as he called them, which of course are not easy at all, but there are problems that neuroscience, brain science can study carefully and get to solutions. Again, they're not easy in the sense of they're effortless, but rather Chalmers advocates that these problems have found their scientific space and there is scientific methodology to deal with them, as opposed to the hard problem of consciousness. What does it mean to be conscious? What does it mean to have qualia? You may have heard that term before, which is a Latin term for what it's like to be. What it's like to be me. What it's like to be a bat. A famous paper by another philosopher of mine, Tom Nagel. Now, how should we go about this idea that large language models can be conscious? You may have heard of this episode with a Google engineer who spent a lot of time talking to chatbot AI systems, and at some point he was like, "Oh my God, they're awake, they're conscious," and he got fired from saying that, from supporting that. But what does this story tells us about how humans interpret the behavior of AI systems. The main point is that as humans, we tend to project our human features into non-human systems like AIs when their behavior assimilates our behavior. So when an AI speaks to you the way you speak to other human beings, you're very prone as a human to start treating it as if this system is a human intelligent like system. So this is the trick of anthropomorphism, finding human properties in non-human systems, in particular artificial intelligence systems. So that's what Chalmers describes here as triggering the discussion about whether these contemporary large language models, LLMs, might be conscious or not. And Chalmers tries to clarify what he means by consciousness, what I mentioned before, what it's like to be a bat, right? Having this subjective experience, that's one definition that you may want to just use as a working definition for what consciousness is, subjective experience. But Chalmers says, well, look, consciousness has many different dimensions. There's sensory experience tied to perception, right? There is affective experience, our feelings, our emotions, pain and suffering. So we think about whether AI systems could be experiencing pain. What does this mean as they become more and more capable? Should we have a moral code, some considerations regarding their moral status when it comes to them being vulnerable to suffering? And so he explores all these dimensions. As you can see, what are they? Sensory experience, affective experience, cognitive experience, agentive experience, being an agent, right? Being able to make decisions, and self-consciousness, awareness of oneself. Now pause again and go back to the definitions you gave for consciousness and try to compare which of these definitions were close, included, or were maybe even all of them, the definitions that Chalmers gives here for conscious experience. Now, many times the term consciousness is used interchangeably with the term sentience. What is sentience? It has different uses, and sometimes it's just used as a simpler way instead of consciousness, just to indicate an organism that can respond to an environment. So if an organism is sentient, it means that this organism has senses and so responds to an environment. Some other times, though, the term sentience can be used for affective experiences such as happiness, pain, etc. So it's important to be able to define and specify what we mean by that. Chalmers uses consciousness because it's the term that's most widely used. However, he clarifies here that consciousness is not intelligence, right? Remember these distinctions very clearly because they're often conflated. Being conscious does not mean being intelligent. Consciousness is subjective, first-person experience. Intelligent means being able to act in an intelligent way, pre-sophisticated behavior. Consciousness and human level intelligence are also different things. Non-human animals could be conscious just as much. And consciousness is not the same as self-consciousness. What you saw before here, self-consciousness is awareness of oneself. So do keep these distinctions in mind because they're very often conflated. So keeping this in mind, we're trying to benchmark consciousness. What does it mean to benchmark? We're trying to evaluate whether a system is conscious or not, or as Chalmers says here, maybe just some aspects of the system's behavior reveal that this system is conscious. But you may ask at this point, why do we care? Why are we interested in consciousness? Why does it matter whether AI systems are conscious? And what Chalmers says is that we don't really understand how consciousness impacts behavior. And from a scientific and technological point of view, we care a lot about behavior. We care about the capabilities of the systems. We care about what the systems can do, in other words. But as philosophers, we also care about morality. We also care about whether the systems have a moral status. We care about whether we should respect the systems. And the similar discussions that have become stronger and stronger nowadays concern animal consciousness. For example, if fish are conscious, maybe we shouldn't eat fish. And that's something movements of veganism advocate, for instance. If these animals, non-human animals, have a certain moral status, maybe our behavior towards them should be different than what it is right now. And of course, because the general assumption is that AI systems are not currently conscious, there is a big ethical challenge here. As technologists, should we create conscious AI systems? This is a responsibility that burdens humans entirely, because it's something that humans are going to bring to life. So this is a big moral, ethical, meta-ethical question to be puzzled by and to try to explore. And in this last part, Chalmers tries to find whether current LLMs are conscious. His conclusions is that they're probably not conscious right now, or at least given the criteria he proposes in this paper, LLMs do not satisfy these criteria for consciousness. And you'll see in more detail what these criteria are. And in general, I would encourage you to try to think a little bit more slowly what these things mean. And like I said in the beginning of the lecture, try to go from your intuitions to fleshing out arguments by giving reasons and finding evidence for why you think what you think. And of course, this is a very challenging but very, very interesting and exciting topic from many perspectives. So it would definitely be worth spending time on thinking about these questions further.